let's move now to the next session that actually is connected to the previous one, to the CATS Global Council vision that has just been presented. As Simon has, and the rest of the panelists, the speakers, they have stressed, this is just the beginning of the journey. And the next step is of course to get the buy-in from all of you about this vision, to get your feedback. So we are looking forward to hear from you, but also we need to start working on the how, on a roadmap to make this vision happen, to make it a reality. And because of this, Spodronic and CANSO, we decided to organize this panel just after the presentation of the CAS Global Council vision on integration of advanced air mobility operations. And this is one of the key elements of the vision and the key challenge for the whole industry. As we will hear at this session, there is a lot of companies that they already are developing, they are looking forward to operate all-electric flying taxis and cargo drones in a few years. And to make this a reality, we need to work all together. And we need to focus on the actions we need to do together in the next 2, 3, 5 years. So with this in mind, and to start having this discussion about the next actions and what and again I will repeat, as an industry, we need to collaborate and the challenges we need to address in the next years to make this advanced, urban and regional air mobility operations a reality. We have invited 5 speakers from a different wide spectrum, to share their views on this topic. So first of all, I would like to inform you, unfortunately, 2 of the speakers could not be with us today. So Parimal, Kopardekar from NASA, and Maria Algar, they will join us remotely. And then we will listen Antoine Martin from DSNA, Mauricio Trezza from Entity Data Company. They have just changed the name of the company very recently. John Jagger from Volocopter. So we have asked them to share their views on this. Let me remove this, by the way. A bit late, apologies for that. I'm getting used to wear it all the time. So we have asked them first to share their views on this topic with us. So they will, each one of them will do a presentation of around 10 minutes, and then hopefully we will have some time for Q&A, for questions from all of you. So first of all, I would like to invite PK, who is joining us from San Francisco. Let me briefly introduce PK. He serves as the director of NASA Aeronautics Research Institute. In that capacity, he is responsible for exploring new trends, collaborations, and partnership needs related to aviation enterprise. So PK, thanks again for joining us today. And now we will give you the floor to you. Hopefully we can make that happen. Yes, we need to change. This is our magician that will make it happen.
All right, that's great. I hope you can all see my slides. Good morning from California and good afternoon there.
Yes, we can.
Yes, awesome. And I'm really excited to be part of the panel. Sorry I couldn't be there in person, but really excited to see the vision and working closely with everyone to enabling that vision. So today I'm going to briefly cover advanced air mobility, the type of work that NASA is doing, and some items from my personal perspective. One of the big challenges in airspace is that we must make sure that airspace system is ready when the vehicles are ready and certificated. In the past, we have seen examples where the vehicles are certificated and the airspace system wasn't quite ready to accommodate them, or we were still working out the procedures or technologies or information needs. And we are at a juncture where we are trying to change that paradigm and ensure that the system is going to be ready as soon as the vehicles are certificated and ready to operate in the airspace. We will be able to accommodate them in the airspace. And that's a fundamental difference in the way we are now constructing our technology, the architecture, the procedures, and the vision towards enabling that future to be supporting of the new entrants. If you look at the advanced air mobility, there are many, many use cases. Of course, on-demand taxis talked a lot about it, but cargo deliveries with drones, medical disaster support, off late also on wildfire management, cross metro transfers, package deliveries, many, many different things. All of those require that we look at airspace operations in a much more integrated fashion to ensure safe, sustainable, and affordable aviation can actually reach to every zip code in the world. My dream is to see that aviation reach every zip code in the world by either small drones or the largest possible aircraft or the fastest possible aircraft. So you may not get every type of aircraft in every zip code, but you will be touched by aviation to get the right services and support that's needed to ensure the global growth and standard of living. In terms of our advanced air mobility mission, we have a number of things that we look at. We look at the fleet and aircraft, we look at airspace, we look at community integration, and all those elliptical shapes that you see. That's where the challenges that we NASA are focused on basically testing. So we have research related to noise, research related to airspace operations and the technologies to develop scale-free growth. We are looking at pilot to operator ratio, M2N. How can we do automated contingency management? We are also looking at accepting these vehicles in a safe manner in communities. So, a number of barriers that exist that we are focused on breaking them together with industry and other government organizations. So, this is a very much collaborative effort. In order to get to the urban air mobility, or you can postulate that for advanced air mobility, we realize that we need to look at aircraft and its design, its performance and standards, airspace and airspace design, whether it's corridor or something else, and performance requirements for airspace operators, operations themselves, and procedures related to those, as well as information integration, infrastructure, and community. So we needed to build a scale because you cannot have aircraft ready and airspace system not ready, or airspace system not ready. Airspace system is ready, but community integration is not ready. So all of these pieces need to simultaneously grow. So we build a scale that talks about urban air mobility level 1 through 6. And the early stages is low density, then the medium density, and at the mature stage, very high density. Each one of them have automation roadmap for aircraft airspace operations and then infrastructure capabilities and community integration considerations. So fundamentally, we are able to track progress on all these dimensions simultaneously to ensure that we are making progress on all dimensions to enable that advanced air mobility. Now, if you extrapolate the advanced air mobility to future and say that, let's say if we have number of entrants from commercial space to small drones, advanced air mobility balloons, supersonic, hypersonic, we really need to look at the system as a whole in a totally different way. So we have characterized the system in terms of number of S curves or epochs. The first epoch, early days in 1950s, was very procedural, estimating where the current aircraft is and where the planned position is using shrimp boards and flight strips and such. So it was safety critical, and safety was the primary focus. And then came the second S curve, where we started to use radar to know the current position and estimate the planned position. So that allowed us to increase the density a little bit. Then came the trajectory-based operations, 4D trajectory management, where you know where you are and exchange the information to figure out where you will be a little bit more precisely. So that allowed us to get to that efficiency and proactive planning. Now we are at a collaborative connected stage where you can use service-oriented architecture for tailored missions like UTM, and we can allow third-party services. So that's right now we're straddling between Epoch 3 and 4, and 4 is expected around 2035-ish. And then comes the big version that you just saw, 2045-ish, There is APOC 5, which will be highly automated, machine learning based, dynamic, robust, and performance based system where the machine to machine interactions will be the key. That will allow us the complexity, scalability, and dynamic adaptation as we move forward. Now, if we relate back the advanced air mobility and unmanned aircraft system traffic management and postulate further towards the vision that we just saw Simon and Eduardo released, the current state of the art is the ATM system is very limited, particularly the pre-COVID times. You know, it's limiting the capacity and the growth. We want growth scale free. We also want to enable new entrants and their operations in a seamless fashion without having to wait for airspace system to continuously be reactive. We want to be proactive, and we want to leverage the new technologies such as machine learning, Internet of Things, cloud services, and such. We really need to look at the total system performance, even though you may be turning the knobs based on the local preferences, but you need to be able to analyze the total system performance, scalability, sustainability, safety, interoperability, as well as efficiency and capacity and throughput. So we really need to, in order to get there, we need to shift the paradigm. The current paradigm is sort of airspace classification that's rigid to make sure that uncertainty is reduced. It can be cope up with humans and manage the operations in the safest possible way. In order to get to that scalability and the diversity of operations we are looking at, we need much more flexible paradigm for airspace design as reflected in the CANSO's CAT's vision. We need to get towards management by exception where possible, so that instead of management by permission, which occurs today, or management by clearance that occurs today, we want to get to management by exception. Instead of telling what to do, tell us what not to do, and the business trajectories of the airspace users can figure out how to avoid the constraints and manage their operations. But in order to do that, we obviously need automation to support the humans. So humans, once you start to reduce the burden on humans, then automation needs to kick in, and they need to manage the uncertainties. They need to manage off-nominal conditions and contingencies to get to that truly performance-based and dynamic environment. And we actually have seen some good example, UTM in a small scale, even though we started off with 400 feet and below. It's really inspired us to look at cooperative, digital, management by exception, service-oriented architecture, which creates a share and care environment, which allows number of heterogeneous operators to interoperate in a safe fashion by having that cooperative and digital information exchanges about intents and such. So really opportunity for us in front is to change the paradigm and get to the new future that will allow us to figure out how do we enable the future airspace operations. It's really all about innovating in airspace and aviation while respecting its safety tradition. And I think we can do that together with the collaboration that we have with industry, academia, government organizations, and such. So looking forward to working with you all. And thank you again for inviting me for this wonderful panel. Eduardo, back to you.
Thank you, PK. Thanks for your fantastic presentation, but also for your incredible contribution to the CATS Global Council. You are definitely a very active member of the council. And now it's my pleasure to introduce you to our next speaker, Maria Algar from EASA. Maria, please, give the floor to you.
Thank you, Eduardo, and good afternoon, everybody. And thank you for having invited us to this panel. It's a great pleasure to be here. And apologies that I cannot be there, even if we are in Europe. So it's due to some personal things. So thank you, PK, for this presentation. This was very enlightening, and I want to congratulate CANSO for this great initiative and for the publication of this future vision. We are part of it, and we fully agree with the content. And now we need to, of course, work all together to make it happen. What I would like to talk to you about, I don't have slides. I would like just to introduce you a little bit what we are doing as a regulator in order to support the new entrants and to try to move towards this vision. So we in EASA and together with the European Commission, we have already established a performance-based and operation-centric regulation for UIS. So it's something was new. It is necessary for this new community, and we believe it is the future, and we need to move towards that environment. So we have already established those regulations for UIS operations in the open and specific category. And we are currently working on a concept for regulatory approach for UIS in the certified category. And what I will explain to you is basically the approach that we will follow. As PK said, the idea is as soon as these new aircraft are certified, and I am talking at the moment about the Beetles with the pilot on board are certified, the idea is to allow them to operate. And this is our approach in this operational concept and this regulatory concept that we are working on. So in addition to that, we are also working in the development of the US-based aerospace regulations. So you have seen it has been adopted. Pretty quickly, it will be implemented. It's the first step for US-based UTM in Europe, but it's a very important one. And we are working together with many of you who are there in the panelists and also in the audience to develop the AMCs and guidance material to support the implementation of this important piece of legislation in Europe. For the UIS in the certified category, we are working on many building blocks. There is one slide PK has presented, which actually we could take it and represent the same slide on what we are working on. So we are working in building blocks such as the operational requirements, such as the aerospace integration with the development of the standardized European rules of the air. We are working also in the pilot licensing and the evolution of the human in the whole history. We are working as well in the evolving the certification requirements. We have the AI roadmap, which is in parallel to this, but is an important building block. We are working in the vertiport, so we are developing actually the specification for vertiports that soon we can certification specifications in the near future. So the infrastructure, we are working as well, and how manned aircraft can be electronic conspicuous, and we are working on many parallel streams to support these new operations and also integrate the operations of traditional aircraft with the new entrants. In this operational concept that we have developed for the entry into force of the urban and mobility vehicles, we have divided actually those UIS operations, what we call UIS operations in the certified category, in 3 types. So we have what we call the type 1, which is basically the, if we have in mind, so the big UISs that they are able to fly IFR, that they can integrate in the existing aerospace structures, and they will be moving towards a more digital aerospace, but at the beginning you can integrate them. So this is our type 1 operations, and this is following ICAO ARPA's panel concept. Then we have what we call Ops type 2, which is the UIS operations, which will do more complex operations than what we foreseen in the open and specific category. So they will do regular deliveries, for instance, in an urban environment, or they may eventually in the future carry passengers without pilots. Those operations will take place in a US-based environment, and they will follow the US-based rules in the future with more complex services supporting perhaps what we call the future unmanned flight rules or digital flight rules. We see what that looks like. So those will be what we will develop a little bit later on. And what we are working right now is what we call Ops Type 3. So there is a pilot on board. The aircraft is VTOL, is able to fly either BFR or IFR, and will fly at the beginning like a manned aircraft, and will fly also in a new space environment, but we are working on how to integrate those flights into the new space environments, but adhering to ATM rules that we have today. So we are working into this, and concepts such as the arrivals and departures into a vertiport, which is located in a new space environment, are things that at the moment are occupied us, our time. We're working on reviewing the standardized European rules of the air and the ATM procedures in order to be able to accommodate these vehicles as from 2024. We aim to publish EASA proposal in order to facilitate these VTOLs in the first phase sometime beginning next year, with a view to amend the relevant regulations in the fields of aircraft operations, crew licensing, ATM, vertiports, in 1 year time, so 2023, with a view to be ready for enable these operations by 2024. This will be a very big step, but it will not be the last one. With that, we want to achieve the vision that we all have in mind. So we continue working on achieving that vision, but this will be an important steps, because we are already defining, how we're gonna transition towards that vision. And we are working together with all the stakeholders from the manned aviation, for the unmanned aviation, state, military, in order to be able to consider everybody's requirements. So we are excited to the times that they are coming, and we are looking forward to continue working together and to be part of this. So as a regulator, I think we are really embracing this challenge, and we are ready to listen to the industry needs and to try to accommodate them. Thank you very much, Eduardo. Over to you.
Thank you, Maria, for your presentation and also for all your efforts that you are putting on this challenge. It's amazing the amount of work that you are doing. And thanks a lot for being part of the CATS Global Council. I think it was great to be in this journey with the regulators, with EASA, with ICAO. It was great to have you on board and to listen to your perspective. And so next, I think we need to change again to the presentation mode, because our next speaker, our next speakers, I have to say that they were not members of the CATS Global Council from the beginning. We have shared with them the document that will be published just now, today. And of course, we have asked them to let us know what they think about this vision. Of course, the main topic of the panel is the integration of the advanced air mobility operations, but it will also be good to hear from them what they think of the vision that we have just presented today. So please, Antoine, let me give the floor to you from DSNA. Let me just quickly move to you, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Eduardo. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Sorry. Okay, great. I'm Antoine Martin. I work for DSNA in France. DSNA is a French air navigation service provider. So we already integrate a lot of air mobility, and I will give you a hint of what we are doing now in France, not necessarily DSNA only, but what we are doing in France to integrate new entrants particularly. First of all, please meet our vision. It may be not a 2045 vision. I think it's a vision which is closest to nowadays, maybe closest to 2030 or 2035. As you can see, you may think this is a vision with segregation, but actually this is not a vision of segregation. This is a vision of integration of manned and unmanned air traffic. And this may be a building block, and I'm pretty convinced it's a building block for the next generation of integration, and that is part of the vision by the Global Council. So what we really want to achieve is full integration of manned and unmanned air traffic in the three kinds of airspaces we already know, which are, of course, control airspace, where what is at stake right now is actually safety of airlines, for instance, airliners, passengers and aircraft, air crews. But of course, also integration of new entrants in non-control airspace, where there are a lot to do with, for instance, military state aircraft and, of course, recreative users. And last but not least, we would like to introduce aircraft in urban areas. And as Piquet has just said earlier, it's quite easy to integrate, I would say, aircraft in urban areas right now because there is few little aircraft right now. So, but we need to get ready for the day when the aircraft will be ready to fly in urban areas from a safety, from a security, and from an environmental point of view. And this is very close to now. We'll discover that. So how can we achieve that in France, and how we try to achieve that? First of all, as an NSP, I don't want to work by myself. It's not my job to integrate all those new entrants. I cannot do it by myself. So we need partnerships, and that's the same for airport authorities, that's the same for aircraft manufacturers, for regulators, for I would say police, military authorities. We all need to work all together. So, for instance, if we want to integrate aircraft in a real urban environment, you also need test beds. And we are currently building test beds all across France. I have a couple of examples. The first one is the Villagil test bed, which is located near Toulouse city. It is a way to integrate all the ecosystem of the aviation and digital industry and transport industry, which is located in Toulouse. So it's obvious that if we want to achieve something real, we need to have all actors involved, especially the manufacturers, the industry, and they need to have some kind of test bed to do it practically, really. So a first example is what is being built in Francazal near Toulouse airport within the Villagil program, which is supported by the city because, of course, city authorities will be part of this new mobility, for urban mobility, for sure. Another example, of course, is what we are currently preparing in the Paris area. Group ADP, French Parisian Airport Authority, is being implemented actually a test bed in Pontoise Airfield with a vertiport, an actual vertiport with actual drone operations, but also manned operations. And IDP is gathering the industry around this vertiport to launch actual drone, unmanned, but also manned operations in the Paris area, which is a first step for further experiments. First experiments will take place next year in the framework of CESAR within the Chorus ex-UAM project. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But of course, we are also preparing actual, real demonstrations, air mobility service demonstration for the Paris Olympic Games in 2024, using all the ecosystem around an actual test bed. Again, we need to work not by ourselves. We need to work all together. And we also have a couple of projects within the CSAR, that DSNA is involved in, that really helps people and systems to work together. For instance, Chorus XOM will help us to understand how we can integrate this urban mobility within real airspaces. And what is difficult is that if we want to integrate unmanned aircraft, for instance, around an airport, at that point, it will be very difficult to use, for instance, Uspace Airspace or simple Uspace Airspace. You will need, for instance, either some kind of hybrid between Uspace and ATM or advanced dynamic reconfiguration of airspace around an airport. So this has to be studied and tested, and that's one part of our project within Chorus XUM. Another project is the Aura project, because that will help us to tackle with, again, the interface between Uspace or UTM and ATM. But that time we need to find a way to have systems, digital systems and digital service to interact with each other. And this is part of the Aura project, in which we are studying digital interfaces between ATM and UTM. Last but not least, if we want to make Uspace a reality and new mobility services a reality, we have to do it. So we are in the middle of a call for projects within our Uspace Together program that aims at now a large-scale deployment of UTM services nationwide in France. We need that because, for instance, US operators need that, aircraft manufacturers need that to move further. The air navigation service provider, as DSNA, needs that. And so we are about to deploy UTM services that will be very close to Uspace services from 2022 within a large-scale partnership program, which is again called Uspace Together. And it is together, of course, with the industry, with UTM solution providers, with aircraft manufacturers, but also the police, the defense authorities, all the administrative authorities, because this is a key if we want to achieve this new mobility, this integration of new entrants. We have to find new solutions, new way of working, and at the same time, I know that this new way of working will be a help also for us as an ANSP to move forward and find innovative solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Antoine. And it's really great to hear everything you are doing in France. You are definitely a good example about, yes, what you are doing definitely to address this issue in the short term. So then I would like to invite to the podium to Mauricio Trezza. He's the head of UTM and UAM program, and I understand that now the name of the company is Entity Data. Maybe you can explain a bit that, please.
Yes, and I prefer this one. Well, there's not much more to explain. We just changed our brand. We did just 1 week ago, and we were Everis Spain until last week, and now we are Entity Data. That is, we are part of Entity Group, so that's really easy. I'm sorry if some point we are still with, let's say, old name, but we are going to do that the same way. Okay, so we start. And first of all, welcome to everybody, and let me thank the organization, CANSO, and Eduardo for the nice invitation and for having the occasion to be here with you today. Let me introduce myself. I'm Mauricio Trezza. I'm in charge of the UTM and UAM program in Anti-Data Spain. And today we are going to see to expose which is our perspective on some of the building blocks that have been exposed by Simon and by itself before, in such a way to see which is our perspective and how we stick with this concept during our normal activity, during the what we do, what we believe, and using and showing the products and the asset that we are working on. So we are going to talk about entity data, sticking to these building blocks. The building blocks that we are going to see are this one. They are just 6. I don't want to abuse your time. So I'm going to go forward to the first one. First one is people, organization, and talent. There has been a specific question to the head of CANSO regarding the importance of people and retaining the talent. And we also believe that this is hugely important. We are a company that operates in 17 countries, okay, and we are more than 30,000 professionals. And we believe that we have to face and to tackle a global solution, a global challenges. That's why our company, my colleagues are from 80 nationalities. Okay, we also, let me stress out that also we are a pretty young company, since the average age of our professional is just 34. Well, not my case, of course, but the average is really low. We also, and we believe that to retain talent, to attract talent, apart of making really interesting projects, we also have to guarantee a professional path that could be sustainable and can be interesting, where anyone can develop and tailor its own career path in order to develop its skills and its own personality. That's our personal recipe to the talent and to retain people in organization. Okay, so after having seen which is our vision on that building block, let's talk about what we do. I mean, service and service delivery. This is another building block that has been exposed in the previous panel. So to us, the key word is autonomy and autonomous platform. This is crucial to guarantee to our customer the best way to achieve their goals. So normally we perform our project, we execute our project using proprietary and key partner capabilities, and namely we design, manufacture, and also operate autonomous platforms, different autonomous platforms. I'm talking about rotorcraft, fixed wing, and also target UAV. And we also include in these UAVs all the add-value service intelligence we can through embedded intelligence, and talk about artificial intelligence and automated vision. Okay, the idea is to guarantee to the partners that we work with an end-to-end operation and process in order to achieve their goal. In this case, goal based on UTM and UAM. Okay, so switching to the next building block, I believe it's important to talk about technology and digitalization. We can face to these building blocks, I believe, in 2 ways. First way maybe can be just focusing on one of these, and we are going to talk about this later, but I believe most important is to approach to this challenge in a very holistic way. So I believe that it's very important to understand that we cannot approach just regulation or infrastructure or one of the aspects that are depicted there in the slides. It's very important as a company, as integrator also, to face all these pillars, all these parts, just like one, and proceed in a very flexible way, adopting a holistic gradual approach to resolve those challenge. Well, this is one way, the holistic way. The other way that I've been talking about is focusing on just some aspects, and we also are working on that. Okay, so just focusing on on technological assets. One of the assets that we are mostly proud of is Airos. Airos is a suite that is built having two key concepts in mind that are flexibility and security. It's a suite that enables complex US operation, like flying BVLOS or flying close to airport zones or particular high traffic density airspace urban areas. So when I talk about flexibility, I'm talking about security. Well, focusing on flexibility, Iris is a suite that can be served just like one suite that is going to cover all the experience, all the projects. Remember, we have been talking about end-to-end projects, so you can use all the suite in different ways, but you can also pick just the services that you want and use it to build on the top of it. And so progress in your project and use it maybe like a working prototype and use it just the part that you need to integrate the part of the project that you need. So this is that's why we believe it's important for the flexibility. But it's also flexible under the architectural point of view, of course. Like all modern pieces of software, you can deploy it on premises, and we can also serve it as a SaaS platform just for its particular nature. So regarding the second aspect that I've been talking about is safety. The Iris suite has been built to conform to the ATM industry grade safety and quality, and thanks also to our internal cybersecurity department, it's been built safe from design to development. This is the concept that we are going to see later in a later slide. But coming back to flexibility, I want also to remark that apart all the aspect, flexibility aspect that I've been talking before, we can also serve this suite, that like a monolithical part in which we have all the roles in one software, one piece of software. Playing the role of CSP and the role of one, let's say one USP, because I believe that in the molecular part there's room just for one USP. But we can also split the suite, okay? And respecting the last EASA architecture, we can have on one side the CSP. So the CSP is going to use some of the software, some of the services that are included in the suite, and on the other side, we have one or multiple USP that can use their own part to just play their role. Okay, so now switching to another aspect, just to summarize, talking about airspace design and classification. Well, we are, of course, capable of using this Air suite to provide airspace design, airspace provision on the go. That we believe is something that's very important for a modern suite. Okay, but it is also something that we provide not only through an asset but also to our activities as a company. This is one example. This is a project we are participating to, is Amulet. Amulet is SJU VLD project, okay, whose goal is to generate key insight on UAM. Which way? Well, mostly through space integration with TM environment, flying different UAVs. We are going to achieve a lot of hours of flight in order to evaluate safety, security, sustainability, and public acceptance. The project is going to see 3 demo flight locations at Kingdom Crownfield, June 22. In Netherlands, it was 22, and in Spain, here in Spain, in Santiago de Compostela in North, in September 22. We're going to fly a lot of aircraft, as I told. We are going to use air taxi from different company with or without pilot, hopefully. And we are going to use US for special logistic delivery, and we are also to integrate with manned aviation, where we're going to use manned helicopters that are going to represent current air traffic. The use cases that we are going to include in this project are different. We are going to have air taxi and cargo operation, emergency services, surveillance, well, a lot of use cases. This is, as you can see, a very ambitious project, and it's a very ambitious consortium partners. We have 17, so we are very proud to be part of it, and we are to coordinate this project. In this project, one of the challenges that we are facing, talking again about airspace design classification, that is another building block that's been exposed before by Simon and by Eduardo, is regarding some of the challenges that we are facing. I'm talking about the airspace structures, since in this project in AMOLED we are going to divide the space in two VLL layers for different vehicle, basically high performance vehicle and standard performance vehicle, and most of all, one of the best challenges will be, design the way we are going through these layers from the soil, let's say, from the vertiports up to the upper layers that are devoted to HP vehicles. And in all this, the classification of the structure of the space of course, we are going to leverage the capability of dynamic reconfiguration through the connection of CSP with USP. This is one of the challenges. Other challenge that we are going to face in AMOLED is to demonstrate the capability of different drones to interact between them and with the authority using different architecture. We are going to use centralized and decentralized architecture to integrate a different platform with the different real system. We're talking about USP, CSP, and SP flying in CTR zone in all along all the three demos. So we believe these are the central challenges that are related with airspace design and classification. And just to close, coming back also to data security, this is one of the building blocks that we've been seeing before. I told you before that talking about our Air Suite, this is based on our capability in cybersecurity. Well, we are strongly proud of our internal department that's going to apply all this knowledge through the 4 steps that we believe are basic ones to try to guarantee the needed safety and security characteristic to a suite like the ones that we propose. I'm talking about design the architecture with security in mind, and then applying as static as dynamic security testing to finalize to pen testing for the application. So that was all, and thank you very much for your patience.
Many thanks, Mauricio. Without losing time, I would like to give the floor to our next and last speaker, John Jaeger. He is the head of aerospace integration and vertiports at Volocopter. Please.
Thank you, Eduardo. Hope you can hear me well. Can switch to the first slide. Without further ado, I would like to give you a short overview how we in Volocopter would like to see the future of urban air mobility and what we do and what are the main challenges. So just quickly to bring us on the same page, what you see here is basically our view, how we see the different market segments of urban air mobility, with a bit of our aircraft already associated, allocated to the different regions. When we talk about urban air mobility, we really mean flying in the center of a city. And there we have the VoloCity aircraft and the Volo drone specifically. For distances around cities and rural areas and suburban areas, we have the Volo Connect. So this is now also shifting a bit the scope from urban air mobility to what we call advanced air mobility. That is more long distance flight, but at the heart of the advanced air mobility, we really see the urban air mobility with our VoloCity. So what does airspace integration means for us? I try to bring that into one picture. It basically this, and I think you are all aware of that. It's actually flying in all airspace classifications that currently exist. That is on one hand uncontrolled airspace, but at the same time controlled airspace when we fly specifically in and out of aerodromes. With the upcoming U-space airspace or UAM airspace, whatever you call it, there's in the beginning at least a certain layer of complexity added to that. But in the end, as we see the vision of the cuts, I think we all look for integrated airspace. So we definitely subscribe to the vision to make that less complex and have just one box where we can fly. Also, an approach that is often used, and we absolutely support that, is the so-called crawl, walk, run approach. I think we have all, and we share the vision of 2045 to come long-term to an integrated airspace, highly automated. Really, every airspace user is more or less equal, can use the airspace without any problems. But let's start and look at today. And we really want to operate, as PK nicely phrased it, make the airspace ready when the aircraft is ready. And we as Volocopter clearly have the target to have our type certification end of 2023, which is already tomorrow in ATM terms. So that's why we have to see how we can actually start. And I really appreciated also what Antoine said. In Paris, we can fly already today. What we actually intend to do in 2024 with the Olympics, Volocopter will fly in Paris. So that is, of course, the starting point. VFR, manned operations, takeoff and landing, partially or in total at existing infrastructure, but gradually moving up with higher automation. This picture is not to scare you. I mean, you're also familiar specifically with the, as you see it on the left-hand side. These are the services of ATM, more or less, that are in place for a good reason, have evolved over decades. Now looking at USpace or UTM or UATM, whatever you call it, there's a number of new services which to some extent match the services of ATM. But nevertheless, as we move with our aircraft in both worlds, and hopefully we merge that more or less, it just gives you the idea of the complexity we have to manage and to decide what services actually apply to our aircraft, our operations. How can we make use already of USpace services probably as a manned aircraft in the beginning, what we're discussing already with authorities and with every CAA around the world, but at the same time absolutely adhering to the rules of the airs, SARA, and be a member of the ATM world. Some of the challenges, and I think this also nicely ties in what was presented here before and what are the needs from our perspective. Just a few highlights. I know it's not complete, but I think from our perspective, one of the main things we should address, divided in inverted commas, what is in the air, what is on the ground when it comes to regulations, standards, and economics. In the air, ATM development, clearly, I think I would repeat a bit what was said before. ATM systems and procedure services have to move in order to cope with the new entrants, with our operations, with the interaction with USpace. Now I'm referring to that term as we are in Europe here. And of course, the whole airspace management needs to be adopted for these kind of operations in very low-level airspace. With the upcoming UTM or USpace service introduction, we obviously have new services, what I showed you before. So obviously, this is something that we have to see if and when actually regulation is in place. We just heard also from Maria with the USpace regulation, which is close to actually coming into effect 23, but still means of compliance need to be developed. So we have a somewhat developing, evolving environment. So actually also suppliers and service providers don't really know yet what will be the basis for the system build-up and the services to be provided. Flight rules and standards, I don't need to read out all of these points here, but I think you are more or less also familiar that obviously we need something to be present in USpace airspace. What about the flight rules and so on and so forth. And the airspace design, we will start certainly with point-to-point connections on dedicated routes, but with the upcoming additional vertiports and routes, we can think of a kind of network that will evolve over years. And this is quite a complexity when it comes really to airspace redesign. I think, and maybe some of you are involved in airspace redesign, what does it mean? Just adding another approach or departure path in one of the major airports, be it London, be it Frankfurt, that gives you some feeling what we are talking here. Now looking more on the ground, what do I mean by that? First of all, I think that is something we are very often compared to helicopter operations, which is a good starting point, if I may say so. But in the end, we are completely new aircraft. We are safer, we are less noisy, we have other performance, and this has to be reflected also in the performance and takeoff and landing procedures that are a bit new and can actually cope with more stringent obstacle environment. Data, I think also a point not to be underestimated. The data that are available, be it weather data, obstacle data, traffic data, specifically in the airspace we want to fly, are hardly available as of today to the level of detail, accuracy, reliability that we need. Information exchange, I just put swim in inverted commas. To some of you, it will ring a bell. Actually, this is what we try to do or have been trying with ATM, and I think there's some success, but in this case, as we talk about use-based services, again, UTM, that is another level of quality we talk about. That's system-wide information management in a sense, so that also gives a flavor what needs to be done here. And of course, CNS, when it comes to communication, voice communication is no longer the way. Obviously, data exchange has to be there. I don't know if it's a controller pilot data link as we know it today, maybe a bit different, maybe using networks, maybe using solutions that are available also for other branches. We just have to make them fit for purpose for the aviation world. Navigation the same, GPS in cities, I think also everybody is aware there are certain limitations to that. And conspicuity, another thing, not talking about frequency, saturation, ADS-B, and so on. Last not least on that slide, regulations, standard economics is a bit of a bunch of topics, and I'm happy again very much in Europe here to have a very close cooperation with the EASA. Also seeing the Commission working in this direction, I think we are in a very good way to move that ahead. Thank you for that on that occasion here, and also seeing the attempts around the world, be it in the US or in Asia. So I think we are on the way, but still some way is to go before we really can talk about and move to scaled operations. Another plea for me here, and I think the ATM World Congress is a very nice forum for that. Let's work on that really in a harmonized way, and I think also again looking to cuts as a very good attempt. We can only subscribe to that. Have that on a global level harmonized, and specifically for the industry perspective, that we can deal with similar environments and regulation standards around the world, and not starting discussions and developing solutions in every place of the world again. And obviously, to some extent, the risk is with the companies. There are bigger players around here. If you look in the hall, you will see of some of them. If you look more like companies as we are, small to medium company, putting all the risk to us is a bit heavy burden on our shoulders. So it would be nice also to see support from authorities or from other parties to say, okay, yes, we go into this direction, but it's not only the new ones who have to bear all the effort and the costs in the end. And that brings me to the last point here. It has to be economically viable. This is true. I mean, in the end, the passenger has to pay for the ticket in terms of, when we talk about passenger transport, but it's the same with cargo. In the end, it has to be attractive. And also the service suppliers, they have to bear the efforts that are actually needed to become certified. So really, let's look for a meaningful level of requirements here. But I really heard with great pleasure the notice that we look, step by step, not detailing too much, take a pragmatic approach, and perfect is the enemy of the good. In this sense, I think we really move in the right direction. And that brings me to the end of my presentation here. Just quoting Peter Thiel, what he said in 2013, some of you may know that, when he said we wanted flying cars. Instead, we got 140 characters, and it actually referred to a bit lack of ambition, with that what was intended also in the Silicon Valley at a certain point in time. Of course, we saw the social media, what he's referring to, is a big success, but I think we are here to really make the flying cars happen. So in this sense, thank you for your attention, and let's bring urban air mobility to life. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's try one. Yes. So hello, everyone. Good to see that Pique and Maria have joined us again, and they're back in the screen. Thank you all for your inspiring and comprehensive presentations. I think we have provided a lot of material and food for thought for the roadmap already. From my side, it's great to hear that you were all using the word together. And it's nice to hear it, because maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we were not in this situation, in this point. We were not so aware that we needed to work together. So it's really great that also around this vision, we all agree that this is the way forward. I am fully aware that we need to finish the panel by 6. But anyway, I would like just to invite all the speakers to the stage, and maybe we can ask all of you for, I think we only have time for maybe one question, maximum 2. So anyone? Yes?
Testing. Okay, thank you. Thank you, panel. A really great presentation. My name is Chris Tyson from the UK Met Office. If I can ask a question directed mainly towards Antoine and John. In your various roles, ATS and as a volocopter manufacturer, have you as yet identified any particular weather sensitivities with regard to safe operations? And what processes are underway to understand any sort of sensitivities and mitigate against them? Thank you.
That's more. I think it's more for John because, yeah.
Okay, I try to answer the question. If I understand correctly, I mean, we are well aware flying in urban environment is really a challenge. And the weather data that we need are not there yet in a level of quality. Also looking what needs to be in the aircraft to resist certain weather conditions. So we need actually kind of network also on the ground to provide reliable real-time data weather. So with that, we are thinking about a concept, now talking in terms of volocopter. You may have heard of our backbone system, the VoloIQ, that actually incorporates these weather data, and if necessary, we will provide also the weather sensors along the path in order to get this data. So that is the approach, but definitely we are aware of that. That refers to wind, rain, and whatever conditions we need in order to fly safely according to certification requirements.
No, yeah. Again, I think we really need to learn more about the implication of weather and med services in this new kind of mobility. It's really. I hope we learn next year within the Chorus XOM demonstrations. It's really the beginning about that. Yeah.
Hello, good afternoon. Pablo Sanchez, working in CRIDA, the Research and Development Center owned by ENAIRE. Thank you very much for the very interesting presentations. And I have one question with respect to one point related to the segregation, no? Because DGAC in France, you have explained that the segregation will be the starting point. No? We need to separate manned aviation and drones. And then, however, in the presentation from Volocopter, you explained that it is necessary to define new flight rules for urban air mobility and so on. And my question is this compatible? Can we define urban air mobility flight rules that allows to avoid segregation, or we should start with this approach of segregating operations as a starting point? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Is it, sorry, is it for Jan or is it for me? Yeah, I'll start and maybe you end that. Yeah, that is a very good question. Yeah, a starting point for U-Space is segregation of manned and unmanned air traffic, for sure, or mostly segregation. And of course, as Jorn mentioned, we need to integrate this new kind of aircraft in an airspace without segregation as much as possible, because we aim at making them flying, for instance, in airports, where you cannot just imagine shutting down the airport in order to allow volocopter to land. That's not possible. So you need to find a way to integrate those aircraft, and so we need something more. And so that's the reason why we are deploying UTM services nationwide, and these services will support both U-Space, urban air mobility, and future services. How exactly, I don't know. That's what I want to find out with our partners and with experiments and real experience.
Mm-hmm. Yes, if I can just add my view on that. I think we really have to distinguish between certain time frames, so short-term, mid-term, long-term, and also are we talking about manned aviation in the sense of general aviation, helicopter operations, or UAS certified category. I think in the beginning, as Antoine said, yes, there will be segregation, just considering the present framework we have in place, but then talking about airspace, what are the rules there? So obviously there needs to be some new rule set in place. And this is what I think also Maria referred to in the beginning, we need to think about. And that applies mainly for unmanned aircraft, as was said, as manned aviations are still, considering the legal framework, also subject to ANSP's service provision. But I think there's a chance actually to think how can we make big use of use-based airspace or UTM airspace already for manned aviation. And what are maybe rules that have to be adopted slightly or can make, in a sense that we can actually already come also in a kind of mixed mode. Maybe there's a pilot on board, but actually is a high degree of automation. So what is that then? Is it an unmanned aircraft? Is it already a UAS, certified category, Ops Type 2, Ops Type 3? So it begins a bit become more to, switch over. And then we see concept like in the US where we have not only the manned aviation and controlled airspace and UTM airspace, but also that urban ATM. So specific airspace and service provider for UAM aircraft. So this is another idea. I mean, this is also something we can think about. And we also think, okay, is that actually another way? And what are the whales? And I think that is what also is in the NASA concept of the UML4. That we have completely different set of airspace rules, corridors, and the rest of it, which first of all brings segregation, but in the long term, I think it might be then also desirable again to reduce it again to come to an integrated solution. So a long answer to a short question. It's not easy one, looking at different airspace types, and definitely for that new airspace, whatever we call it, we need new rules and see how we can integrate manned and unmanned aircraft there.
Yeah, and we need to I mean, we have got rid of time. Final question from my side to each one of you, and starting from PK. Just a very simple question. When do you think that it will be possible for a normal citizen to get a mobile phone, open an app, buy a ticket to get inside a flying taxi? Very quickly, each one of you. PK, you first, please.
Oh, yeah, well, that's a great question. Government is not always good in estimating time or other, but PK's personal opinion, by 2024 to 25, you should be able to get somewhere, maybe in a very small segmented place, but look forward to that vision coming true.
Okay, thank you, and thanks again, PK. Maria, your view.
With the pilot on board,
With pilot.
to
Let's start
ensure
with pilot.
societal acceptance, because we didn't talk about that, but it plays an important role. I will concur with PK. I will say 2024, 2025. Without pilot on board, maybe we go back to the time of the vision, 2045. Yes.
Okay. So maybe next, Mauricio.
Well, I absolutely agree with them. That must be made as a difference in with or without pilot, because we all know that having a pilot on board is an accelerator and a way to reduce this figure and to make it possible to have this date closer. And well, I agree with them, and I believe that mostly Maria, we have to deal with the regulator aspect and technological aspects. And Maria is one of the persons that, and also PK, for both aspects I've been talking about, can bring us more light on this point. I absolutely agree with them.
Thank you. John?
Yes, as I said, 2024, I think there are good reason to believe in that.
Very good.
I'm confident.
Antoine, last word from you, for you.
Yeah, but I give you a rendezvous in Paris in 2024.
Okay, very good. So thank you, everyone. Once again, if you want to know more about the CATS Global Council and to be part of it, please contact us. Okay. Thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow.